Hey guys, it's Veronica. I was just about to put up all my decks and get some work done tonight on my deck that I've been avoiding. I've had a lot of fun making videos tonight though. I just wanted to point out a couple things. When I was doing my majors on majors, this is the Transparent Oracle by Emily Carding. The Transparent Tarot. And it comes with a white cloth. It makes it easier to see the cards, but I built a light box that I'll have to show sometime. But it's truly, her decks are truly like brilliant and innovative. But I'd never used them with another deck before. But the Victoria Regina, it really just, there's something about putting these cards on top of the Victoria Regina. I guess because it doesn't overshadow it. You know, I had put the Tower on top of, I think it was this. I think it was a Tower on the Empress. And I'm like, wow, that is so cool. So if you just happen to have both the decks, you might want to try playing with it. It's pretty fun. So I also wanted to show that a lot of people didn't have this deck and it's out of print, but there are a lot of larger decks. This is the La Terre Noire, and it's great to use as a bottom deck for the houses, for the majors. And a lot of the round decks that I've shown today are larger, but they fit really well on these larger decks. I also like the Starseed. The Starseed made me think that I think tomorrow I want to try doing one for myself where I use an oracle. Put down all the majors, but instead of using a major from another deck, take like the Earthly Souls and Spirits deck and shuffle it up and see what comes. I think that would be a good match. Another good oracle deck to use would be the Wild and Free. I don't usually use oracle decks, but I could see me using them on top of majors quite easily. It would add a little more structure that I like to it. So that was just a thought. And other big decks that I like using, the One Spirit Tarot. They're big and bold. Of course, the Rorig is great. I got this one a while ago. And my Alice, that's probably one of the only times I use the big cards, or when I use the majors on majors, and I use my Alice deck, the large edition, for the bottom one. And another good one is the Golden Tarot, the Mary Packard version. They're just large and bold, and you can use almost any deck on top of it. So what got me thinking of mixing the decks up though, and this is why I actually made the video to say that you could use the rest of the deck as clarifiers, or use the oracle cards, but the one that I used today that I liked was my Lunatic Tarot on this one, on the La Terre Noire. My Lunatic Tarot, where I just trim the sides. If there's titles on the top and the bottom, I like just trimming the sides. It still opens up the images, but it makes them easier to hold and shuffle. And I just thought that the two of these were a great combination, as well as the medieval Scampini deck. This one is a newer version that I trimmed because it is so laminated and stiff that it was actually hurting my hands. So I had to trim it. But I have an older version where it's more matte and I can shuffle the decks easier. If you are interested in this deck, if you like the artwork or you think it's beautiful, which it is an amazing deck, you should go to Sacred Seeds channel. She just did a 2-part review on this deck in a way that I never, ever could. So that was basically it. I've had a lot of fun making all the decks on the round videos, but I wanted to mention trying an oracle card, an oracle deck on top of the majors, and see how that goes. And also, there were people who were mentioning not having the Regina Tarot and all that. Some of my larger decks that I like the most are ones that I have made. And like this one is a Vivian Mayer deck that I made. She is arguably the greatest street photographer that ever lived, and nobody knew about it until she was gone. So I took a bunch of pictures of hers that I liked, and I made my own. And when you make your own deck, you really connect to each of the cards because you're searching, well, which one is going to be, you know, this one was my 4 of discs. So it's nothing that could be used commercially or that I'd sell, but making your own deck makes it a very strong deck. Plus, it'd be a great one to use. Like if you don't have a big majors deck, make your own. This is just on index paper that I printed off and laminated, and then you just shear off the lamination. The deck I'm working on that everybody wants me to publish, and I've got to change some of the cards, the ones I'm working on tonight, this is just 4x6 paper that I put contact paper on the back. Some of the cards, like I just redid the quartz, and I've got to reback those. But that started with me making a majors only. This is the Justice card. You know, dear, karma's only a bitch if you are. And photo paper decks are very strong. And making your own deck just makes it, it's like, you don't have to wonder what that card means. You're the one that put it together. It's what it means to you. So it's very personal and very strong. This just happens to be one that took off with a couple of my friends saw it. Now when I'm at tarot parties, they want me to bring it. And it's very, very clear. I was a little intimidated using it in a spread for people at first because, and I'm a big one for the card means what it means. If I'm working with someone who's new to tarot, I like using cards that have titles on it, so you don't have to take my word for it. Google it. That's what it means. But when you've got a spread out and it's memes like this, you can't get away from what it's saying. It's a little scary at first, but it ends up being like the deck everybody wants. So, but my point is, you can make your own. That's the very first deck I made was, my friend Retta Ware makes these bags, by the way, and I use her bags to keep my homemade decks. And this was the first one I made. The printer I had at the time actually printed well on the back of photo paper, so it has the same one. This is years old, and it's completely pictures. There are no words, but I only use this deck for my best friend and I. It's like our sacred deck, and when we really need answers, we go to this deck. But like, she is the Queen of Wands in this deck. My husband is the Knight of Pentacles. And when you make a deck like this, like I'll show this one. I saw that one. This is my 6 of Swords, and this is a picture I took at El Conquistador in Puerto Rico. And so the whole deck is made up of very personal pictures and maybe some famous artwork or things that I've tweaked. But if my whole point is, make your own deck. And make a big majors deck, or and then fill it out and finish it. I mean, it's taken me, each of these decks took me forever. The meme deck I'd been working on for the last 2 years, and it was just a little project that I was doing for myself that's kind of taken off. But if I never get it printed, I know that what it means to me. It's just such an important deck to me. So that's pretty much it. Ooh, another deck that I said that, but now I've got to find the name of this. Wild Moon did a great, I'm having to hold the camera because it's falling, but I need help getting these cards out of this case. I'll have to look at them on Etsy and see the name of it, but Wild Moon is the reason that I got this deck in the first place, and it's all colors. And this one would also be a great one to put on top of the majors. You know, all these things that, oh wait, here it is. Color Image Oracle. Woohoo! There it is, right there. So that's the thing I love about cards. There really are no rules. Just do what feels right for you. And even though I'm a rigid traditionalist, there's other things that I just like to play with. You know, one of the decks I like here's my Star Child deck. And some people would look at this and think, holy shit, she trimmed her Star Child. Not just it's the first and second edition. The first edition was edged in purple, and the second I didn't. But when I went through and picked my favorites from each, it ended up being half and half. So if you look from the back, the deck is split half and half. So there are some people who would look at this as just a travesty. Like, I have ruined 2 Star Child decks. But in reality, this is what made it usable and workable for me. So I don't really care if someone thinks I'm crazy for trimming it. I love both editions. And it's like I've got 2 really cool decks. But this one, I have to say, has my favorites of both the decks. I was glad I was able to cull from both of them. So that's, what else was I gonna say? Oh, just while I'm rambling, why not? Some advice on pulling a card for the day. I was talking to a friend about it, and the best advice I can give on doing a card a day is to be very specific. I like the idea of pulling a card at night and seeing if it resonated with how the day went. But if you're going to pull one for the morning, why not be very specific about it? Because every card has so many facets to it. And again, if you're pulling for yourself and you're doing a 3-card spread or a 1-card, I would be very specific with what the question is and very specific on how many cards you're going to pull. And then once you do that, sit with it. Even if you look at it and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. It probably does. It's just not what you want it to say, maybe. Because if you keep pulling clarifying cards until it makes sense or you get what you want, then what's the point, really? If I pull a clarifying card, it's because I understand what the card means. I just want to go deeper. It's not to help me understand what that card means, because that's the way our brain works. It takes the chaos and makes a pattern out of it. That's usually our latent thoughts, or it's the thing we need to know. So there, I've just rambled on about tarot for a little over 12 minutes with no real point, basically. But I had a lot of fun making the videos today. You guys are great. And I hope everyone has a great night. And now I have to get to work on my own deck. So I will talk to you guys later. See ya.